Tonight, following the recognition of Palestine as a state, we hear from both sides of the divide living in Scotland as the First Minister urges the UK government to take further action.
Hopefully, for the rest of the world, it's an opening to right the wrong of the past.
Very concerned for the lives and lifestyle of the Jewish community in Scotland. Already we've seen many people going to Israel.
Also making the headlines, a man is convicted of murder for deliberately driving in front of a bus, killing this young driver. Dermatologists warn young children could be risking damaging their skin by following needless, costly beauty regimes. And in sport, after more protests from Celtic and Rangers fans, the two clubs are drawn to face each other in next month's League Cup semi-final. I'm Kellyanne Woodland. This is the STV News at 6. Good evening. It's been one of the most significant developments in the Middle East conflict so far, and now people in Scotland with ties to the region have been coming to terms with the UK government's decision to recognise the Palestinian state. We've heard from a doctor from Gaza, now based in the Highlands, who says it's long overdue, while a leader of the Jewish community is concerned it will embolden abuse against them. The First Minister has welcomed the developments, but says more needs to be done, including sanctions against Israel. Well, we'll have the latest on the political reaction in a moment. But first, here's our senior reporter, Gordon Cree.
Salim has been a paediatrician at Raigmore Hospital in Inverness for more than a decade. He grew up in Gaza, where in recent times members of his family have been constantly on the move. He says they and he have always been Palestinian and says the acceptance of that has been a long time coming.
I think if they've done that 76 years ago, maybe we wouldn't have been in this horrific situation we are in the moment. So to me, the move is very symbolic, but I think hopefully for the rest of the world, for countries like the UK, Canada, Australia, etc., it's an opening to right the wrong of the past.
If we don't act now, the risk is that everyone will just turn their backs on the two-stage solution that is the only lasting way to get peace and security for the region. That is why it's so important.
The convener of the group Edinburgh Friends of Israel told me he fears this announcement may lead to increased abuse of the Jewish community in this country.
Very concerned for the lives and lifestyle of the Jewish community in Scotland. Already we've seen many people going to Israel, moving to Israel, because they're more concerned about living in Scotland and living in Britain today. They would rather go to a war zone in order to feel safe.
The UK has trade deals with Israel and has provided military intelligence and arms during the offensive against Gaza. At Edinburgh University, this expert in international relations says if that doesn't change, the Palestine decision could ultimately be more symbolic than practical.
So without action, without forms of economic, military and diplomatic isolation, recognition is going to remain an empty gesture, which might make governments a little bit less complicit, but at the end of the day, we're not going to see a state of Palestine on the ground.
Over the coming days, world leaders will gather at the UN General Assembly in New York, where a Middle East peace plan is likely to dominate discussions. Gordon Cree, STV News.
Well, our Westminster correspondent Paris Gertsianis joins us now for a closer look at the political reaction. And safe to say, Paris, this has divided opinion.
It certainly has, Kellyanne, but more than that, I think both the UK government and the Labour Party find themselves slightly caught in the middle. On one hand, you have those who say this move is completely wrong, that it rewards terrorism and endangers those hostages still held by Hamas. And of course, that includes the Israeli government and its allies in the United States significantly, as well as the Conservatives and Reform here in the UK. On the other side are those who say that actually this is too little, too late, that it's going to take much tougher action against the Israeli government to stop the bloodshed in Gaza. That includes the First Minister, John Swinney, who was at a flag-raising ceremony at the Palestinian Mission here in London, where I caught up with him.
This is a symbolic recognition of the state of Palestine, but it has to be the start of a whole range of steps being taken, such as additional sanctions on Israel, such as banning goods coming from the occupied territories, ensuring that there are absolutely no arms sales to Israel, so that the people of Palestine can be protected and they can begin to rebuild their lives and to rebuild their state as a consequence of the recognition that has been made.
Now, the UK isn't the only country to change its stance on recognising a state of Palestine in the past few weeks. It's joined by the likes of Canada, Australia and France and a whole host of other European countries who are timing their announcements for this major UN summit taking place in New York. The real question is, what impact will this have? The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has responded by saying there will never be a Palestinian state, so there isn't much hope of a stop to the Israeli offensive in Gaza City. Indeed, there are fears that this could accelerate the illegal seizure of Palestinian land by Israel, something the UK Foreign Secretary has warned against. The First Minister told me that this moment is a fork in the road. Either path still seems very long and uncertain.
All right, Paris, thanks for bringing us up to date. Thank you. A man who deliberately drove in front of a bus, killing the young driver, has been convicted of murder. David Livingston had planned to take his own life in the crash in Ayrshire, having been dumped by his long-term partner. Gordon Sterling, the driver of the bus, died. Tara Fitzpatrick is at the High Court in Glasgow.
Well, the family of Gordon Sterling said that a guilty verdict in this case means they can finally start grieving for a much-loved and popular son and brother. They described the experience of this trial as torture, which was prolonged by the accused pleading not guilty. Judge Lord Mulholland described this case as one of the most selfish killings he had seen in his 40 years in courts. David Livingston was in the dock of the High Court in a wheelchair due to the serious injuries he himself sustained in this incident, which occurred in August 2023. Livingston crashed his van into the single-decker stagecoach bus on the A77 around 5:30 p.m. 23-year-old Gordon died of his injuries in hospital just 1 week later. The court heard how 44-year-old Livingston had been playing an online game called Wheel Decide just shortly before the crash. But he denied feeling suicidal or that accessing this site was in order to make any decisions about his own fate. He also said he had no memory of the collision, but just 10 minutes before committing the crime, he sent "I love you" messages to his son and eldest daughter. The court heard how he had confessed while in hospital to his ex-partner and her mother that he deliberately drove the van into the bus that Gordon was driving. But he said, "Don't tell anyone or I'll get into trouble." George Mulholland described Livingston's actions as selfish in the extreme. He said that he had taken the life of a young man with everything in front of him. He'll be sentenced for the murder next month. Tara Fitzpatrick, STV News at the High Court in Glasgow.
Now, for many of us, skincare products probably weren't at the top of our Christmas lists while at primary school. But these days, it's becoming a must-have among younger consumers. Driven by social media, children as young as 8 are adopting extensive skincare routines, often with products aimed at anti-aging. Dermatologists are now warning about the potential damage this can cause to younger skin. Amy Flett has been finding out more.
We want to see like a wee bubble residue, right? And that's going to...
This salon in Glasgow is used to having customers in for skincare treatments, but these girls are slightly younger than the usual clientele. They're here for a masterclass on all things skincare, and they're no stranger to a beauty routine.
I do cleanser, toner, facial oil, serum, moisturiser, then facial spray.
I use cleanser and then I use moisturiser and then a serum.
I just use like cleanser and moisturiser and like serum and stuff. I do cleanser and then toner, serum and then moisturiser, but never just kind of cleanse my face.
Do you guys think you have wrinkles?
No.
But as many of these products are made for adults, Chelsea is keen to teach the girls what they should and shouldn't be using on their skin.
I seen it for myself from my wee girl because she jumped on the hype and she used all the skincare, and I seen what it was doing to her skin. It broke her skin out, it dried her out because they're using it every single day. And I think that's come from social media and the things that they're saying, like come get readies with me, things like that.
And for some mums, it's been a learning curve.
I'll be honest, I wasn't checking at first. I was just letting her use whatever she brought home until I did see her like different changes in her skin, breaking out and having like wee rashes and stuff. And also that was on my part. I wasn't checking, but I wasn't really aware how bad they were for her skin, to be honest.
In this lab, researchers study the effects of chemicals on skin cells, and the prospect of children using skincare products has become a growing concern.
Probably one of the commonest challenges I see is people using products on the skin that clog the pores, and it makes you more prone to getting acne-type spots. Another category would be products containing retinol or things that are designed to prevent ageing. It can sensitise the skin, make the skin more irritable, more red, more itchy, and also potentially make the skin more sensitive to sunshine, which is clearly not something that we want in young skin.
This Edinburgh company has been making skincare products for 15 years, but there are fears that larger companies could take advantage of this growing market of younger consumers.
Children are watching a lot of social media, and they're getting bombarded with marketing from very powerful influencers. I think if anything, the big players in this will, the multinationals will absolutely monetize it and try and market it really hard if they see a route to higher revenue.
So if you're unsure about what products are safe for your child's skin, the advice is to keep it simple. Stick to plain soap and water. But if you do choose to buy a product, opt for a basic moisturiser, and always remember to read the label.
Back in Glasgow, these girls have learned an important lesson about taking care of their skin.
Do you know now a bit more about what's in these products that you were buying before?
Yeah, like there's loads of like adult stuff. It wouldn't be nice for my skin and it's too harsh for it.
Do you think you might wait until you're a wee bit older now to use some of these products?
Yeah.
Amy Flett, STV News.
A hearing has been told how an asylum seeker who was shot and killed by police had threatened to stab people just 24 hours before going on to attack 6 people with a knife at a hotel in Glasgow city centre. Badreddin Abdallah Adam Bosch injured a police officer during the attack at the Parkin Hotel in June 2020. Ollie Dickinson has more.
This was the scene in June 2020 on Glasgow's West George Street. Armed officers, paramedics and the fire service all responding to reports of a man in a hotel used by the Home Office to house asylum seekers, stabbing other residents and staff. That man was Badreddin Abdallah Adam Bosch, a 28-year-old originally from Sudan. Firearms officers would go on to shoot and kill him. At today's hearing, the Sheriff Principal Aisha Anwar asked Police Scotland Federation's advocate Sheila McCall KC about transcripts which referred to Mr Bosch. She said there were threats of a stabbing 24 hours prior to the incident. Ms McCall replied, yes. A previous hearing had learned how an armed officer deployed the wrong kind of grenade during the operation. It was accepted that the officer intended to bring along a stun grenade, producing a large flash and bang to disorientate. Instead, they used a smoke grenade. When deployed, this caused the fire alarm to be activated inside the hotel, potentially impacting on the communications among those on the scene, described as a potentially relevant factor to the death. The court was also told today that a total of 700 witness statements have been lodged. A further preliminary hearing has been set for December for a list of witnesses to be cross-examined at the inquiry. Ollie Dickinson, STV News.
A Colombian man has been jailed for 13.5 years after he and 2 Scots tried to smuggle £42 million of cocaine into the UK. Didier Torcella de Arrez acted as a contact between Colombian cartels and Mark Moran and Daniel Livingston from Argyll Butte. They attempted to unload the drugs on a beach in Yorkshire but were tracked by officers. Moran was previously sentenced to 15 years in jail and Livingston 7 years. A woman has been taken to hospital after an incident in East Kilbride this morning. Emergency services were called to a flat in the Calder Wood area of the town just after 8 a.m. The 35-year-old was taken to Hairmars Hospital and a 45-year-old man was arrested. Now, ice hockey team Glasgow Clan have banned a fan for life over racist comments on social media. The comments were made on a post about Fife Flyers' Mason Alderson scoring his first goal. The supporter has also been banned from Flyers games. Glasgow described the post as deeply concerning. A former professional rugby player from Edinburgh has become the first person to swim the 60-mile length of the Caledonian Canal, finishing in Inverness this lunchtime. Ian Sinclair set off from Kirkpash last Monday, swimming through 4 lochs and 29 canal locks on the way. He's raising money for 3 charities and in memory of Jenny Hastings, wife of rugby colleague Scott, who took her own life last year. The UK's largest annual projection show, Castle of Light, has announced it's to return to Edinburgh this winter. This year's production runs for 7 weeks from the 21st of November. The After Dark display will feature larger-than-life installations on the castle walls and will feature everything from a mighty dragon to an ice queen in the Great Hall. All right, let's get all your sport now, and plenty coming up with Rahman.
Absolutely. Rangers and Celtic faced each other recently in the Premiership. They're going to face each other again in the League Cup semi-finals. That's after they won their respective quarter-finals. We've been speaking to players from both clubs who scored in the quarter-finals.
Your window to sport. C.R. Smith sponsors STV Sport.
Good evening. Brendan Rodgers has hailed Seb Tunekti's impact since making his £5 million move to Celtic, and the winger is aiming to continue his good start for the club when they kick off their Europa League campaign this week. The winger scored his first goal for Celtic in their win over Partick Thistle in the League Cup yesterday. As I said, the holders face Rangers in the semi-finals in November. Meanwhile, Bojan Miovski, there he is there, is confident his first goal for Rangers in their much-needed League Cup win over Hibernian is the first of many as Aberkside ended a 5-match winless run.
2 games played since moving to Parkhead on deadline day, and Seb Tunekti has been named player of the match in both of them. The winger is quickly becoming a fan's favourite as Celtic eased into the League Cup semi-finals.
I'd like to, as I said, to contribute with goals and assist. I think, it was a good start today, so I'm happy with that, and hopefully I can make more into the future. So it was a nice game, and good to get going.
Many Celtic fans continued their protests against the club's board, unhappy with the transfer business in the summer window. On the pitch, this was a routine victory for the cup holders, with Yang, Liam Scales and Luke McCowan also scoring.
McCowan finds the corner. Celtic have 4.
There were also more protests at Ibrox, with Rangers fans demonstrating inside and outside the stadium. They want Russell Martin and Chief Executive Patrick Stewart sacked following the team's poor start to the season. Martin Boyle thought he'd given Hibs the lead early into the League Cup quarter-final, but following a VAR check, the goal was disallowed for handball. Nikola Raskin marked his return to the Rangers team in some style.
Nikola Raskin! It had to be him!
That was in the 42nd minute. Soon after, Bojan Miovski made it 2-0 going into the break.
Yeah, of course I'm happy, first of many. Really looking forward for this team performance. I think today we dominate the game, we pressed really well, and we didn't rush this final pass. We was a little bit more calm.
So one of the semi-finals is a repeat of last year's final, and both Celtic and Rangers ticket allocations will be cut by 500 for the use of pyros in last year's showpiece.
Well, Motherwell and St Mirren have been drawn against each other in the other League Cup semi-finals. The Saints booked their place at Hampden following their penalty shootout win over Kilmarnock on Friday night, while the Steelmen defeated Aberdeen 1-0 at Pittodrie. Regan Charles-Cook scored the only goal, and what a goal it was.
It's a special group with special talent in it, and
you know what, like we're very together and we're enjoying every moment from training to games and the consistency that we're showing. So I really believe that we can really do something special.
Falkirk manager John McGlynn says their first home league win of the season against Hibs tomorrow night would settle down everyone at the club. Following their draw to Dundee United on the opening weekend of the Premiership season, Falkirk lost 2-1 to St Mirren 9 days ago. Across all competitions, Hibs have won just one of the last 8 games.
I think it settles everyone down. It would settle all the players down and the fans. You know, the away win at Aberdeen was great for everyone travelling to Aberdeen, and obviously there'll be Falkirk fans watching on the television as well. They would be delighted as well. But when you've got your 5,700 season ticket holders here, you want to be winning in front of them.
If you go and get 3 points tomorrow night, you're then looking at it in isolation and go, well, you know, that would be 9 points after 5 games, sitting third in the table. It's certainly not a disaster. It'd be a good start, and then you can always look at games and say maybe you should have picked up points here, could we be better there. But you can't affect things that have happened previously. You need to always look forward and look how you can keep improving.
Now to the Ballon d'Or Awards, and Scott McTominay has finished 18th in the men's category, while Caroline Weir has been ranked 30th in the women's list. The Scotland internationals are the first Scots since Ali McCoist to be nominated way back in 1987. The awards, which recognise the best players across Europe, are taking place in Paris this evening. Each category has a shortlist of 30 players. And finally tonight, Oliver McBurk has become the first Scot to score a hat-trick in the Bundesliga. But
Your window to sport. C.R. Smith sponsors STV Sport.
And some goals there by Ollie Burke. That's what folks is all you spoke for me tonight. I'll see you again tomorrow. Kellyanne.
All right, thanks very much, Rahman. All right, let's get your weather now from Philip. And Philip, did I hear you in the newsroom earlier saying that this was the start of autumn? But I'm sure you said that a few weeks ago.
Yes, Kellyanne, you're not wrong. That was on the 1st of September. That was meteorological autumn. That's when all the meteorologists and all the weather buffs start collecting data for the season. But today, this is when it really starts.
So when's that then?
Because it's the autumn equinox. So what does that mean? Well, that's when the Earth's axis lies perpendicular to the sun, giving us nearly equal lengths of day and night. After the end of this week, the nights will definitely be drawing in as we will start seeing more hours of nighttime compared to hours of daylight. The clock change isn't until the 26th of October, and that's when we'll really start to notice the darker nights. But in the meantime, the weather has certainly taken note of the change of the season as things are remaining autumnal for the rest of this week. Let's take a closer look at what's in store. Here is your forecast.
Midday Mayan temples, followed by sunny afternoons on the sand. TUI sponsors STV Weather.
Well, thankfully, we've started the week with this area of high pressure dominating our weather, centred directly on top of the UK. That's keeping things fine, largely dry and pleasant for the rest of this week. The bad news is, come the weekend, look at this, low pressure moving in from the west. That will turn things changeable and unsettled, but we're still a while to go until we get there. Back to just now as we head through the rest of this evening and overnight. It's remaining largely dry for many of us. We will see plenty of clear skies, so we could see some mist and fog patches forming through the central belt and around southern areas, and it will be another chilly night to come. Temperatures dropping to lows of around 3 or 4 degrees Celsius. Some rural spots though getting down below freezing. So again, that in turn means it will be a cold start to Tuesday morning for us. But again, we're holding on to the largely dry conditions throughout the course of the afternoon. The difference to today is that we'll see more brightness around, prolonged spells of sunshine and blue skies tomorrow, and that in turn means that temperatures will be up a degree or two, highs of 15, possibly 16 degrees Celsius. Then looking ahead to Wednesday, we start to see this frontal system trying to creep in from the west. So there will be more cloud around western coastal parts and affecting the Western Isles. A bit of a breeze here. Elsewhere, lighter winds, plenty of sunny spells once again. Remaining dry, highs of 15 or 16, but out and about, feeling a little bit chillier, feeling more like 7 or 8. Bye-bye.
TUI sponsors STV Weather.
And finally from us, as Scotland prepares for the Commonwealth Games in Glasgow, the women's weightlifting team is set for an imminent task, the 2025 World Weightlifting Championships in Norway. The tournaments will be held over 10 days in early October, with Team Scotland competing against 600 other athletes from around the world. Well, our reporter Raheem Cham joined the team during a training session in Glasgow earlier and can tell us more.
She is a fierce gladiator, tackling, clamping and swinging her contenders to the ground. But in this makeshift gym in Glasgow, Shelley McCoy is one of 12 athletes training to compete at the World Weightlifting Championships in Norway next month.
Weightlifting isn't something you can just walk into and do well. It's something that takes years to calibrate your body shape and size. And weightlifting is very much about pattern formation and then making the most out of your body anthropometrics versus the barbell and where you want the bar to be in space and time versus where you want yourself to be. So I think like a lot of it is very technical. Push my weight onto my toes, touch the bar to the shin, eyesight, shoulder pressure, breathe, and execute.
And this is the kind of perfect execution Team Scotland is aiming for.
The preparations are going well. I've been lifting it pretty much at every previous competition so far. So it is just very important that we can do the same in a different setup.
Really nervous, but really excited too. It's probably going to be the biggest stage of my career, so yeah, really excited.
How they perform in Norway will determine whether they will compete in front of the hometown crowds at next year's Commonwealth Games in Glasgow.
Okay, so of course I had to do my first ever snatch. This is how you do it. I got my grip on, right here on my hip, tilt forward, bend your knees, lift and jump. Raheem Cham, STV News, Glasgow.
Raheem, just showing off there, I say. Well, that's all we have time for this evening. Thanks for joining us. From all of us here in the team, enjoy the rest of your evening and we'll see you again tomorrow. Bye-bye.